Welcome to the radio Wasteland. Hello, my darling. Hello from the radio Wasteland. Hello, my darling.
All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland, the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm your host, Chauncey Hallworth. This is my co-host, Kara Kittrick.
What?
Kara, what's the news from the Wasteland?
Hey, we agreed to use weapons. Where's yours?
So first we start with a story you sent me from BuzzFeed. Quote, a couple, their 1-year-old daughter and their dog were found dead after going missing from a hike, with the subtitle, there were no signs of trauma or wounds on their bodies, and officials are treating the scene as a hazmat situation. Also, they went missing in an area called Devil's Gulch near the Sierra National Forest in California, which is freaky. Officials have said it could be a carbon monoxide situation, but, quote, aren't ruling anything out yet. Horror movie stuff.
Have you ever seen Cabin Fever?
No, I haven't.
Okay,
No,
man, this is terrifying. It's terrifying. Now, I actually have some more information on this one.
Oh, do you? Okay.
My wife is the one who initially shared this article with me, and she had a follow-up article that I didn't have a chance to get to you that said something about like a bloom of toxic blue-green algae or something.
Oh,
which
okay.
Man,
like, I was trying to not do a climate change story this week.
Yeah.
But
it is. Yeah.
Now it's a climate change story because toxic blue-green algae blooming everywhere, in massive quantities is a symptom of warmer water. So, like, scientists have been warning us for a long time, this could be dangerous, and holy crap, it's happening. So,
yeah,
okay,
this
cool.
It's like all the stuff that went on throughout our history to get us here. A lot of it, the reason why humans walk this earth as opposed to other things, a lot of the time is because of mass extinction events and major plagues and stuff that killed off things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like, it's a little scary, man. It's a little scary. We're getting into this sort of like non-space Andromeda strain level here. Are we going to see ice melts that release flesh-eating bacteria and
right
and stuff like that? It's terrifying. I mean, here's a family that went walking in the woods. It killed the parents, the child, and the dog
because they walked by like a pond.
Right.
Yeah, because these algae blooms, they produce invisible toxic gas. I want to say cyanotoxin, something like that. Anyway, yeah, you don't know it. You just walk by and you're dead. So we're gonna have to like cordon off these areas, or because finding all these toxic algae blooms will be incredibly hard, right? Because wilderness is wilderness and it's huge, and there's like little bodies of water everywhere which could host these things. And also, if the climate's changing, then the locations of those bodies of water are also going to change. So like preventing this kind of thing from happening in the future is going to be a massive challenge. Now, like, this was one group of hikers, right? Out of how many other people went hiking across the country that weekend? A lot, I assume. But I imagine this will become more frequent. And also, you mentioned flesh-eating bacteria. Like, I'm going to make a prediction now. Climate scientists have been saying for a long time. There will be another COVID-19 level pandemic in the next few decades. It's not going to be it's not going to be 100-year thing anymore. Because if the climate changes, then animals are going to change their ranges and interact with different animals that they haven't interacted with, evolutionarily speaking, maybe for millions of years. And that is the perfect storm for new viruses to mutate and new bacteria. So I think, this kind of thing is going to be the new normal.
Yeah, well, watch out for those little bodies of water, especially if they're surrounded by little bodies of dogs and children, because this is beyond messed up. And when I heard it,
Yeah.
I was like, a lot of people over the years have sort of scoffed at some of my belief systems because they're sci-fi. And I like
Right.
warn, like, go, well, this could happen. And they're, oh, yeah, but it doesn't. And be all, well, now it does. So
Yeah.
who's right? Who's right now?
The
And
good news
also,
is
I don't
that
hike. So,
oh yeah.
sorry.
I hike. The good news is that this bacteria is blue-green in color, which is weird. So stay away from the blue algae.
Right.
In late July, two separate aircraft, one commercial, one military, witnessed a bright green flying object that flew into the clouds and disappeared over at the Atlantic coast of Canada. One craft was a Canadian military plane, the other was a Dutch Airlines flight. Transponder data showed that both planes climbed at the time of the sighting, possibly to get a closer look. The Canadian government does not track UFO sightings, so this information will likely go uninvestigated, but at least one of the pilots believes the sight may have been a meteor, since the sighting coincided with the Perseid meteor showers.
Okay, so the two aircraft spotting the green object flying up into the clouds, at first I'm thinking, you're telling me the story, I'm okay, it's a UFO sighting. My first thought was, do we take sightings from other countries less seriously? Like, are we such a country that we're just all like, well, they're Dutch, what do they know? Well, I'm serious, we have weird attitudes towards other countries. Is this one of the ones that we have?
I don't know.
Yeah. And
no,
then
go ahead.
And then I was thinking, like, okay, well, it's another UFO sighting. Hopefully it's just added to the pile. And then at the end, it's like you threw in something that's like supposed to make it a little more innocuous, but I gotta say the end made it all the more terrifying in the blue-green algae, taking us back to the last one.
Right.
Because now they say, oh, well, it's probably just a meteor that's green.
Well, that's actually, meteors can be green.
I guess. Is
They
that
can
just
have
the mineral in it that's
right, any
burning?
number of bits of dust. I've actually seen meteors that have kind of a greenish tinge whilst out camping. Once I was camping during a meteor shower and it was secluded and you could see the night sky super, super well. And so yeah, I saw meteors that had, bluish tinges, greenish tinges, whatever. So this isn't actually that weird, but when I heard this initially, I'm like, it's Superman, finally,
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally.
going to land a perfect trajectory to land in Iowa,
I assume that paranormal fans are also fans of H.P. Lovecraft, which
yeah,
seem to go hand in
another
hand. And this is Way the Color Out of Space, man. When I heard it, I initially thought, great. There's now some farm out there with carnivorous five-legged sheep, that are basically
from the stars.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. We just seem to be swimming in all of these.
An enormous rubber duck with the word joy written on it has appeared in the harbor of Belfast, Maine. No one knows where it came from or what it wants. It is 25 feet tall.
All right, so what's up with this duck?
I legitimately have no idea. Like, the story was real short and it was, hey, we don't know where this huge duck came from.
It's like a Banksy thing, maybe?
I don't know.
I don't mean from him.
There's not a lot to talk about here, but I thought I'd report it in case this duck is like an eldritch abomination.
Right, totally.
Because I think when the great ones rise from the depths of the sea and, drive humanity insane, it's not going to be tentacle monsters. Lovecraft was just afraid of the sea. It's going to be, weird stuff like a big old duck that says joy on it. So,
like Ghostbusters.
Exactly like Ghostbusters.
Yeah. What did you think of, Ray? I tried to think of the nicest thing that I could think of when I was a child.
A big duck that says joy on it. Yeah.
Right, yeah. All right. Well, stay out of the water for a while. Just
it's flesh eating. Fox News reported last week that a bomber in Washington, D.C. didn't have a known motive, despite that same bomber posting video rants in which he repeated election conspiracy theories and pointed at Joe Biden as an illegitimate president. Ray Roseberry of North Carolina shut down the Library of Congress when he claimed to have a bomb. Fox News devoted only a few minutes to this incident, whereas CNN and MSNBC covered it and the bomber's motives extensively. One Republican congressman came out with a strongly worded message in support of the bomber.
This guy was obviously a offshoot of the people who are being affected by our political situation, regardless of what anybody said. He obviously was. The part that I think is weird is that he parked in front of the Library of Congress. I mean, that's where you want to blow up. Was that just the most regal building he could find? I find it hard to believe he knew he was in front of the Library of Congress.
No, I think he knew. I expect it was. I'm not sure what it was.
I mean, he's going to blow up like mono track reel-to-reel recordings of music from the Ozarks from the team.
Right. It's unclear to me what the reasoning was. You'd think if you were upset about the election being stolen, you'd go for the Capitol or the White House, but like, I don't know, maybe the security situation was just too tight around those things.
That makes sense. He drove around till he could.
So he like ended up scaling back his goals a little.
Right.
I don't know. It wasn't, as far as I know, that wasn't even a bomb. Like, this was a thing that was designed just to like
scare people.
Yeah, exactly. And draw attention to the fact that he believes the election was stolen. But I think, honestly, I don't think this guy was crazy. I think if you think the election was stolen and your leaders are saying, well, this election was stolen, but make sure to vote in the next one, like, no, you're going to look for alternate solutions, because if the Illuminati or whatever can just steal an election with magic ballots, then and not necessarily violent solutions, but you're going to like do strikes, or you're going to, you're going to do something
outside of the system, which is exactly what this guy did, which I think is reasonable. I think what's not reasonable is believing what he believes. Like, I think he's an idiot for having these views, but like, well, the idiocy of the situation is really what made me think he was in front of the wrong building, because some of these people who stormed the Capitol got off because on video they were basically didn't know what building they were at.
Right. No, yeah, I remember that. These are not intellectuals, but there are a lot of them, and some of them are intellectuals. Some of them are very smart. Certainly the minority, but
I'm sure they don't like to be called that.
Intellectuals.
No, the
minority. Oh yeah, God.
Zinger.
Got him. No, what was I think the real news here is just Fox desperately trying to like cover their butt on this. It's like, oh yeah, there was a bombing, we don't know what happened. Like, they literally covered it for like 2 minutes and then went on with the day. Whereas everyone, and they didn't talk, like, if you watched it, you would know about the situation. Someone tried to bomb the thing. You would not know that he was a right-wing extremist who was doing this specifically because he believed that the election was stolen.
Yeah, I find it really weird, because either Fox News believes that the election was stolen.
I don't think they do.
Or they believe that the Republican Party, where their shareholders are getting a lot of their money from, the conservative side, I shouldn't say Republican, the conservative side, where they're getting a lot of their money from, is fragile and on the end, and they're going to squeeze it for every dollar that it's worth until it's dead.
I think that's exactly what, like, these people who are gullible enough to believe that are their cash cow and their customers. And a lot of people, they were reporting immediately after the election that, no, it wasn't stolen. No, the election was legit. They did all that stuff, and they lost a ton of viewers because they did that. Because now they have competitors. Now they have OAN. They have
Newsmax. Yeah.
Newsmax. Yeah. So, and they're still definitely like the juggernaut of conservative media, but like, they're trying to hold on. So I don't think most of the people at Fox believe half of what they say on any topic whatsoever. I think I don't know, maybe Tucker thinks that stuff, maybe Hannity does, but I think those guys are con men. I don't think they believe any of it. You can tell I don't even think Alex Jones believes any of it. You can tell the legit guys because they're like Mike Lindell. They make you go, whoa, I don't have any money.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I don't think Trump believes it. I don't think anyone believes it in any position of power except for, the guys like Lindell, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the real wackos. But they've reached a situation where most of the base believes it. So they have to keep it going because the base will react incredibly negatively to anyone who tries to bring them back to reality.
Right.
So, and I think the base knows that most of their standard bearers are con men. I think that's at a Trump rally a while ago, they were booing Mitch McConnell. Freaking Mitch McConnell, who's probably done more for conservatives, than anyone. They were booing him because he's declined to comment on this whole election situation, right? So I think the base desperately wants to clear house of anyone who's not as crazy as they are, and the elite guys are just trying to hang on.
Yeah, it's a weird world where we're hoping that the elite guys do.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me just wants, I don't want these con men, I want these media outlets to be, and these politicians to be exclusively as crazy as the base. I want them to self-destruct. But part of me is like, oh, careful what you wish for, though, because maybe they won't self-destruct. Maybe they'll just form a fascist party and take over.
Happens in other countries. Why not this one?
It absolutely does. We're not special. So,
okay, so I got a final thing that I thought about talking to you about. At the beginning of next month, I'm going to Vegas for a carpet cleaning convention.
Okay.
Part of a company that I work with, doing marketing for carpet cleaners. And here we are in this world where people got to get back to work. There's not a lot of money. Half the world is getting back to work. They're cutting off assistance to people. I gotta work to take care of my family.
No, absolutely.
But I don't really want to go to Vegas in a pandemic where my wife just had COVID and where I didn't. I'm the one with pre-existing conditions, but I got no choice. I got to go work. Right. So here's the deal. I'm thinking that I'm going to go in and I'm going to lie and I'm going to get myself a booster shot. What do you think of this?
I mean, I think you can just wear a mask.
Oh, I'm going to do that too.
Okay. Well, I mean,
part of the problem here is that the vaccine that I got was the J&J.
Sure.
And the way it looks like all of this is working now is that it looks like moving forward until we get a better thing is we're probably going to start having at-home antibody tests to the point where if your antibodies fall below a certain level, you get a booster shot. That's what it's starting to look like is going to end up happening.
Right.
And people who got the J&J have the lower amount of antibodies. And they're already approving booster shots across the country for people with pre-existing conditions. And countries like cities like San Francisco were already doing this. So I'm wondering, what's the ethics? Should I do that?
I think ethically yeah. And keep in mind, this is coming from not a medical professional. It's possible that there's some, expert out there who's listening like, absolutely don't do this. It'll wreck up our supply chains for X, Y, and Z, and 30 million people will die,
Yeah, that's why I'm asking about it.
But
I'm sure the comments on the YouTube will have plenty of answers, plenty of constructive answers.
But for me, I'm thinking there might not be a lot of booster shots now, but in a couple months, that we're going to be swimming in them, and it's your health. You have pre-existing conditions. I would say don't take chances. You do the booster shot. Why not? They don't need to.
Yeah, but I gotta lie when I go in there. Well, that's the hard part. Because I have to lie to somebody's face. I don't like that. I don't
I
like
mean,
that.
yeah, no, I get why that's uncomfortable. Ethically, I mean, ethically, yes, it is wrong to lie to someone, but like not that much. People do it all the time over way dumber stuff than like your life.
Right.
So do what you got to do. Is my take on this.
Well, let's go to the experts. All right, YouTube, down there in the comments. Hey, should I get a booster shot? Answer me in the comments. Oh, and by the way, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. All right, welcome back to another exciting adventure right here on Radio Wasteland, the best in paranormal talk radio. But tonight it's not paranormal. It is digging into my other love in life, which is nerddom. In general, you know, I was a nerd from, well, I guess you're born a nerd. I'm not sure. You know, I discovered my nerddom through drawing. You know, you end up being the drawing kid. You get wrapped up in what you're doing. You end up being the weird kid who's drawing pictures in the corner. And I guess life took over from there and deemed me as such. And our guest tonight is Chris Gully, Chris Fury, on his podcast and show. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. Okay, so you know the topic when this came to me, Andrea sends me the question, and all it says is, "Do you know what a blerd is?"
Okay.
And I'm just all, I think I do. I'm just all
Okay.
like, I'm not sure, you know, what the and so why don't you explain to the audience what a blerd is?
So for those who aren't familiar, Blerd is a black nerd. It's a coined phrase that was created, I want to say like in early 2000 by a young lady, and it just kind of caught fire. And there's tons of podcasts and groups, Facebook groups that just use the word blerds and bleaks and yeah.
Right. Well, you know, when I'd heard the word a lot, and I always thought, oh yeah, it's a nerd that's black.
Mhm.
But then I thought about it, and I'm like, why the separate distinction? Why the separate distinction? And I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that it was probably shocking to the black community that people were into these things. Maybe I don't know.
There was some confusion, or a little bit, and there was a little bit of shock as well. You know, there are people who are really into the nerddom, and when I say the nerddom, I mean everything from cartoons to collecting action figures to Pokemon cards to Yu-Gi-Oh cards to anime to just regular cartoons, comic books, superheroes, you name it, Power Rangers. It goes on. And there were some people who felt like, oh, I remember that as a kid and I grew out of it. Well, that's fine. You grew out of it. That's not your thing. But there are some others who literally are into it. They stay into it. It's a part of them, you know. Very much. There's quite a few creatives who've come from this type of nostalgia and this type of field, and going on to become writers and directors and whatever, actors. And truth be told, even the hip-hop group Wu-Tang Clan are a huge group of blerds, you know.
Oh yeah, especially for martial arts films.
Exactly. So
they have their whole my friend John had a good sized collection of the Wu-Tang martial arts films, like the Flying Guillotine and stuff.
Yeah. So all that stuff. So it was just more of a safe space for a lot of POC creatives and blerds alike to kind of congregate, you know, and they find themselves, you know, a lot of conventions. At some conventions, you know, there's a lot of pushback to cosplayers who are of color, who cosplay as a character from an anime or a manga who's not particularly black. And there's also that stigma of, well, you can't cosplay that character because they're not black, or they're this or what. And is, you know, there's this pushback now that's been going on, and it's continually growing, and it's called Cosplay Your Way. all types of coined phrases, and it's like, well, this is what's happening. And now, like especially with the success of Loki, now it's what's been happening is, oh, you can dress as anybody because now you're a variant.
Right,
so,
right.
so no one cares, and
Yeah, because they had the terms. I took my kids to cosplay conventions all through their growing up, and gender bent, I remember, was a common
yes,
term
yes,
for
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they called it like Rule 63 or something like that. It was something like that, where they just like, oh, this is Rogue, but now it's a guy,
Right.
or this, or this is Mystique, but it's a guy, or this is Wolverine, but it's a girl, which now Wolverine is actually a girl, but that type of stuff. But there's no end to it.
Right.
It's a growing trend. I love it. I absolutely love it, because there's so much love from that community. There's so much acceptance. I've heard many a time. BlerdCon just passed, which I did not have the opportunity to go to this year, but I will be going next year. But I've heard so many people say that it's like going to a reunion. You meet so many people online, or see them and you follow them on Facebook, Instagram, that are cosplayers, and you build this rapport. And when you finally get to a convention where everyone congregates and you get to meet these people, it's just like, oh, it's like family. You've been talking to these people, you've interacted with these people, you've asked them questions about their cosplays or their art, and it's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely beautiful thing. So
I agree. My kids were way too young for me to send out on the streets of Sacramento to have fun and check something out. But when we would go to Sac Anime, which was the closest one to where my kids were growing up, I felt comfortable to let them basically have kind of free reign, and they had a lot more freedom at Sac Anime than they would even have at our own house in town. Because it was such a communal situation. There was something for them to do. I knew they weren't running all over town. There was so much right there that they wanted to be a part of, And then you go out there and find them, and you think, okay, well, maybe you'll find them doing something shady, and they're not. They're eating ice cream on a bench with their friends, and it's like, it really was familial and safe, and a lot of fun. You were talking earlier about the pushback for going as characters of different races. I thought about this before we came on here, and I wanted to ask you, if that is the case, is that hard? Because I know a lot of these cosplay tend to be based off of anime, where there isn't a large amount of Black characters.
Correct.
Now, comics has done pretty good. People like to say, oh, comics, those aren't the comics from when I was a kid, and be all like, through the 70s and stuff. I don't think parents really knew what their kids were reading. Through the 70s, there were a lot of multiracial characters. There were gay characters. There was a lot of Satan worship. Tony Stark was an alcoholic. There was raging drug abuse with Green Arrow's little buddy.
Hank Pym was a woman beater.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it was so much.
Yeah, right. So is there an issue with finding those characters to cosplay as, or did you just say screw it, we're not even dealing with that?
People just dress. They do what comes to them best. I have seen some fantastic foamsmiths and seamstresses, and I do not hold anything against them at all. I created my platform to allow them to showcase their work and their talents and their gifts, because that's just what they are. And they, once again, I just had a young lady on last night, and she was a cosplay winner and for BlerdCon, and she makes all her costumes. And a majority of her costumes are from anime characters, and then some are from, like, I think she just did like a photo shoot from the characters from Once Upon a Time, and she was dressed as Snow White, and the other young lady was dressed as Regina, which is the evil queen. And they just generally have a great gift, and they get such, how do I put it? I don't want to say pushback, but they get more recognition then they do get pushback. It's sort of like that thing when they say you might hear all those yeses, but then it's that one no that sticks with you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
it just kind of sticks with you. But
well, and I'm sure part of it, you know, a no is not always a no. Sometimes that no carries a stigma that another no doesn't, you know.
Right, exactly. So, but also what I've come to find as a cosplayer, when you go somewhere and you've worked weeks, months, maybe even a year on end working on a costume, and you go somewhere, you just hope that it just fits the bill, you know. And then it just takes that one little kid, hey, it's such and such and such and such, you know, and it breaks down every doubt you had. It breaks down every notion of fear that you were having, just to see that little kid recognize you for what you've dressed as, you know. And then even the adults, that is great. You are doing something great that I couldn't even do. You know, I've even been hurt. I've even heard it myself. Case in point, when Black Panther was first released, I went to a Strongsville mall for a photo shoot, you know, and was just taking pictures for the people that were coming in to see the film. It was, I think, a Thursday. It was a Thursday. People were coming in to see the film. Some people were coming out of just seeing another viewing, and there were a group of kids. They couldn't have been no older than 10 at best, and probably the youngest was 5. And the first thing they're running up, he was like, "Is Killmonger really dead?" And he's like, "I seen you," you know, and it was just an amazing feeling. Couldn't see nothing because I wear glasses, so I had my mask on the whole time, and I'm just doing the Wakanda Forever salute and everything else. And I totally had a totally different look from what the movie had. I had a whole kind of armored look, you know, and they still knew who it was.
Oh yeah,
they still recognized who I was. And
was yours more comic based or something, or?
Yeah, it was more based off a vibranium armor that he wore.
Oh, okay.
You know, and in the comics, I even had a Nerf sword that I repainted black, like an ebony blade. It was a black blade with a gold handle, so I even had that on my shoulder, and they were just like,
they knew,
in awe.
Yeah,
they just knew. And you know, so it's a really great feeling, you know, to dress as anybody, you know. And I implore people who are just getting into cosplay, just starting out, maybe even afraid to do it, just do it, you know. And as we say, to hell with the naysayers, just have fun with it, you know.
Yeah, I only did it once. I have to admit, I did it with my wife. We were going, and I'm just all like, I'm fat and I'm bearded. I mean, what am I going to go as? The only thing I could come up with was, I'm sure you've seen this movie, was Lord Yappa from the Nausicaa movie. You know, I'm just all, okay, so I'm gonna, you know, go as this. And then so Terry's just all, okay, well, she's gonna cosplay as the little girl from Animal Crossing. So she ends up making me a full Tom Nook outfit. And so I have to go as Tom Nook, which is all fine for the first 3 or 4 city blocks. But when we had to walk 3 more city blocks to get to the Starbucks, and I'm dressed like Tom Nook in a Starbucks with a bunch of business people, I'm all, oh God.
There are times where I've had to go someplace, and obviously I can't drive the car in certain stuff.
Yeah.
But I won't completely strip down, and then I get out and like I still have my martial arts judo pants on, you know, because it poses as part of my costume, so it has a different look. And I still have the belt on that has the African beads, or I might have my Nick Fury patch like right above my head, like, and I still have the gear on except for the coat. And sometimes I was just like, I just need to run in here and grab me a couple bottles of water, you know.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, and I just kind of like, you know, just disregard everything that's around me. You know, I get stopped. I'm like, hey, are you at the? Yeah, I'm at the con. That's, yeah. You must be Nick Fury, or you must be Black Panther, or you must be.
Well, that's good. At least they know who you are.
Yeah.
I have a feeling as Lord Yappa, they would have been all like, I don't know this guy. So what was your gateway drug to nerddom, to this stuff. There must have been something as a kid that, you know,
It's
I had a
always
couple,
something.
you know, Doctor Who was one of them. I played a lot of
Mhm.
D&D, you know. What was your gateway?
My gateway was literally Zorro.
Really?
Seeing old Zorro serials.
You're like
you know,
Batman. That was his gateway.
yeah, exactly. And seeing Zorro and then getting introduced to Superman shortly after that, and Batman shortly after that, and then by the time I was 11, it was Black Panther. So it had always been there in some form. Even Smokey and the Bandit, who I viewed as a form of hero, you know, he's going against the law that was crooked, you know.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. Actually, now that I think about it, I did
yeah,
too.
you
I
know,
thought, yeah.
he's just trying to help these people out, and you're chasing him down. So, and so I would always, it was just always instilled in me. It was just kind of a thing, and it turned out like my uncle, who was really big into it, and they just, by the time they figured it out, it was like, oh, we should have just kept all those comics that your uncle had or fought harder for. And I'm like, wait, he had comics. So but yeah, it's always been like instilled in me, and I think the biggest influence was probably Superman. It was
Christopher Reeve Superman.
Christopher Reeve Superman was probably the biggest influence for me. And just seeing someone stand up for whoever and take down a bad guy, and do it in such a sense that despite all his power, he's still, man, he was like, I can stop you, but I'm still going to allow the law to handle their job.
Right. Gonna be the good guy no matter what.
Yeah, the big blue Boy Scout, as Bruce Wayne calls him.
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, that's true.
You know, and just watching, you know, and as time went on, Black Panther and Captain America Black Panther really spoke to me, and Captain America really spoke to me, because I felt like here was a guy who did not care what you look like, who you were or are. All he knows is what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. He didn't care if it was the bank robbers or the government. He just stood up for the people who he knew were being bullied.
Yeah.
And that really spoke. It still does to this very day, actually. You know, that the ideal of what he stands for is a very strong ideal.
Yeah, you know, I was mashing through an editorial for the magazine that I was telling you about earlier today, and in the editorial I was basically saying, you know, it's like I don't want to advertise myself as a post-boomer attitude, but I remember at least growing up in a country where we pretended that it was very important to stand up for the little guy, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what it makes me think of what's the line in where they referred to somebody as being a god in the movies, and Captain America is just all, oh, there's only one God, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that, man. You know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
You know, I felt that they nailed that pretty well. So I was never a huge comic fan. I did a lot of X-Men as a kid. I didn't follow a lot of the other stuff until later. Now I'm like obsessed with lore in general. Like what's that guy? Comics Explained, that channel on YouTube.
Yes.
I'll like go to sleep like listening to 5 hours of the backstory of the Green Lantern. So now I'm like totally obsessed with this stuff. You know, how do you feel that the MCU portrayed the comics that you loved?
I think they are doing a great job. Honestly, they are. I never thought I would be in a day and age where they would portray something so fluidly, and the way they're keeping everything connected is chef's kiss. And they are really doing a great job. Like people literally look at Chris Evans now as, dude, you're Captain America. Like, we watch you on Twitter and like the stuff you doing, and like you really are that guy, you know. And even some of their changes that they've made to some of their characters even make sense. You know, I've often said that in comics, Hank Pym was this all around genius, You know, him, Tony Stark, T'Challa, they're these all Reed Richards, they're these all-around geniuses. And he's also the creator of Ultron. But then as they transfer over to the films, it just made sense that you make Tony Stark the creator of Ultron, because who else would know AI and robotics better than the guy who makes Iron Man?
Yeah, it
You know?
did seem like a better fit. I knew this too, and I kind of felt like Tony Stark was a better fit to be the creator of Ultron.
Yeah, and it just made, I'm like, see, they're making sense of, it's not so much retconning, they're just making sense of it, because you know, you read these things as a kids and a lot of stuff you really don't question. You're just in awe of the action, and sometimes, and most of the time, the storyline, you really don't think about the back stuff. You know, Spider-Man is a great example. Spider-Man's story is a story that every guy on this planet has somehow recognized. You know, kid in high school, nerd, girl he likes, can't really talk to, trying to pay the rent, try to get the girl, trying to help his aunt, you know, lost a family member, trying to save the world, and still keep his job, still keep his grades,
Right.
you know, and despite everything else, he's, you know, he gets dealt a lot of blows, and yet he keeps getting back up. You know, the losses, he keeps fighting. He deals with it, but he keeps fighting. You know, he probably got the most amount of trauma I've ever seen next to Batman, you know.
Oh yeah, well.
So
yeah,
so
well,
it
speaking of the
has a lot.
two, you know, what would you, you know, do you have a favorite comic company? I mean, I know there are other ones than DC and Marvel.
I, you know, I've often said I was Marvel's bitch.
Well, I think a lot of people are now.
So, but there, you know, I and only because of the breadth of characters that I like from Marvel. You know, there's Luke Cage, there's Black Panther, there's Sam Wilson as Falcon and as Captain America, there's Captain America himself. Just a lot of their backstories, Spider-Man, there's a lot of their backstories that resonate with a lot of stuff. Even X-Men, I've loved the story of X-Men because it's very much the story of bigotry. Fighting
absolutely. I mean,
fighting against
earlier
bigotry.
we were talking about how parents didn't know what their kids were reading, and X-Men's a prime example where that was meant to be a direct comparison to racism in America in the 60s, you know?
Yeah, right. You know, so still having this whole fighting against the fear, people fearing what they don't understand. That is a overreaching, not even overreaching, but it's a overarching storyline and a true fact. You know, like, you know, people do fear what they don't understand. It doesn't even have to be race, it could be anything.
Right. Yeah.
And people act differently towards something they don't understand. Oh, why are you getting all these tattoos? Well, it's art. You know, people like art, you know, and they apparently like the art on their body. Oh, that'll lead to gateway drugs. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You know,
no, I did drugs long before I got the tattoos. What are you talking about?
You know, so you know, why are you getting on those piercings and why this and why? Because you don't understand it.
Right.
You know, and you would see those 80s PSAs, you don't understand, you know, and that was the beauty of reading stories from X-Men, because here, even seeing the cartoon, the storyline was these guys, no matter what, they're still going out there and they saving the human race, including their own mutant kind, and still receiving hate, you know, having to cover up your identity just to go to the mall. and then some robots decide to attack the mall, and you're trying to fend off the robots, and they see, oh, they're scared of the robots, but oh god, these mutants are so much worse, even though they're saving our lives. Right. You know,
so these two super tall chicks with the craziest hair I've ever seen. Basically, I assume you're referring to the first episode of the X-Men cartoon.
Yeah.
Storm and Rogue shopping and Jubilee. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know, so it's just like you're more scared of the two super tall chicks with the big hair.
Yeah.
Than you are the robots just trying to kill everybody and causing all this collateral
the
damage.
Roof off, man. It ripped the roof off. Yeah. You know, my favorite growing up was always Marvel. Obviously X-Men, but later, before the MCU, as I was more into watching stuff, I fell in love with DC because man, they nailed it with those movies and DC or Justice League Unlimited and stuff like that.
Oh,
That's
God,
where I ended up going like, okay, maybe I need to take a second look at DC. Because
I've often said, even on my podcast, I've often said that DC makes fantastic animated features, whether it's their shows or their films. They are touching on something that really, really works. You know,
I think they acknowledge their market's age bracket.
They do.
You know, I think Marvel animation, it seemed, was still going for tweens, gunning for tweens, thinking that was their only market, where DC was, you know, dealing with death and, you know, on a tasteful level, sexuality and stuff like that. You know,
I think they're strong. I think Marvel's strongest runs in animation was the X-Men film or X-Men animated series, which it touched on a lot of more adult themes. And then like any iteration of their Spider-Man cartoon, which, like you said, it was always aiming towards tweens and you know, in between there. Right. And sometimes they might slide a little something in there, but there was that. But DC always, they're Justice League Unlimited, Justice League cartoon films. They're just everything they've done animated. You sit back and you look and you're like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah, I wish we could get some sort of grasp of the power that these things have, because you know, we were talking about how these kids through the 70s were basically being exposed to topics that their parents didn't know that they were being exposed to, and Star Trek with its social issues, X-Men with its social issues, you know, and how fantasy and science fiction basically takes an idea and makes it palatable, and then you swallow the idea, and once it's in you, you go, oh, you know, maybe this is the case here, you know, and you know, so maybe we should be a little upset that terms like nerd are being thrown around. I think maybe they're just scared of us.
We are coming in legion, as you know, it's growing every day. I remember the first Wizard World Cleveland I had gone. Actually, it was Mid Ohio. It was Mid Ohio Con. It was in Columbus, and it was the first big con I went to. And the reason why I went was they said Stan Lee was going to be there, so I volunteered. And this was the year he started having the heart issues, and the hush that went over that entire crowd when they realized he wasn't going to be there. And it was a health condition. I was walking by and hearing people like, oh my God, you know. But that was one of my biggest cons that I had ever been to. You know, Patrick Stewart was there. I actually ran into some Patrick Stewart groupies. I'm like, oh wow, Jean-Luc Picard has groupies. Never thought that was going to happen.
Like rock star level groupies, like
rock star level.
We want to get Patrick Stewart's bus.
Yeah, like it was the weirdest thing for me, but it was hilarious because it was a Friday night, because I was there volunteering for Friday and Saturday, and it was the Friday night, and you know, Thursdays is kind of like your setup day, and Friday is like when it really starts, and it was in the evening, and so I'm just directing them to the lines where they need to go, and hey, like, is Patrick Stewart here? Do you know when he's gonna come? Like, oh God, he's so dreamy, he's so hot. I'm like, Professor Xavier, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's not a bad looking guy. It's just this is kind of different to see this, you know. But he was there. Jason David Frank, who's best known as Tommy from the Power Rangers, he was there, and now that was the eye opener for me. Me and my brother, my youngest brother, he watched Power Rangers more than I did, and then I just started following suit. And I'm just like, oh, this is cool, you know, Sentai Rangers and everything else. This is really cool. And then went to this con and seeing how this man was commanding the crowd. Like, he got up on the table and they're doing these phrases, and I seen how many people was dressed as just different Power Rangers. And it was amazing. And he is Jason David Frank. He was so down to earth, such a cool guy. And it makes me forget all about that whole week where he haul-assed and whooped all the Power Rangers' ass when he first came on the scene.
Right.
And
the
so
green or white.
when he was green. When he was
All right.
green, yeah. When he came on as the Green Ranger, yes. So, but yeah, who else was there? Oh my God, it was so many people. Dean Cain was there, you know. Jason David Frank, Patrick Stewart, Stan Lee was supposed to be there. It was so many people, and I was just kind of like, this is cool. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. You know, I don't know if it was just not accessible to where I was, because I'm from Akron, and those were a lot smaller cons. You know, the Akron Canton convention, and not really a lot of big names or anything. So going there and seeing the level of people who dressed up and was engaged with the actors and actresses that were there, and then I think I skipped Wizard World Cleveland one time since its inception, and seeing crowds like David Tennant, which was damn near impossible to see. Who I loved as Doctor Who, and seeing the crowd, like his crowd was he was there the same year Chris Hemsworth was there. Matter of fact, that was the year Chris Hemsworth was there. I called it the year of the Russos, because the Russo brothers, who's originally from Cleveland, they were there. Chris Hemsworth was there. Frank Grillo, who plays Crossbones, he was there. There were several people from the Marvel state that were there, and getting a picture of Chris Hemsworth, damn near impossible. Elizabeth Henstridge from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was there. Oh my God, there was so many people there that represented Marvel shows or movies that the crowd was nuts. And the crowd for Chris Hemsworth and David Tennant was damn near the same in size. Like one half of the arena was for them.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, we know why the ladies are here for Chris Hemsworth, and we can understand why the ladies are here for David Tennant. This is nuts. So it's a great experience to go to conventions like that. It really is. And like you said, when you went dressed up, you've already explained the downside
Right.
to cosplay. Walking around from 6 to 8 hours in most uncomfortable shoes or boots,
Right.
sweating, layers. Please don't let it be in the mid of summer. It can sweating in places that you didn't know would still sweat.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we don't have too much time going on. I know we were talking before the show about how you were trying to get back to life like we were. What do you got coming up?
So right now we have Blerds Eyeview, which is a show I created last year. It's a podcast. We showcase a lot of POC creatives, and we talk about a lot of geek stuff throughout the week that's been going on. I do a lot of reviews, and we just have a lot of fun. And we created a safe space for people, people of color to come on and just feel comfortable, tell their story, showcase their talents, and that type of stuff. And that's on every Tuesday on Facebook and YouTube, and you can catch it live at 8:30 on Facebook and YouTube. And you can also follow us on Instagram, which is Blerds Eyeview, all one word. And yeah, we're just having a lot of fun. And then I'm doing IG lives on Friday where I kind of do like a Blerd week wrap up, and I might have a guest on, or I might talk about some of the latest stuff that's been going on, just kind of going into depth, talking to some of the viewers and having fun with it, and just doing stuff like I'm doing right now, and people tend to like the sound of my voice, so I'm going with it. Right. Another thing I'm playing with, I'm not even playing with, another thing I'm actually going after is doing some voice work, because I would love to do some voice work in animation and gaming. So that's another thing I'm working on. And me and my partners also have a production company we just started, media production company, which is Black Legacy Productions. So we will be focusing on stories that you want to tell that you really can't get told by Hollywood, and we're working on a documentary right now. So those are the couple things. I plan on being at a panel, hopefully in October, with the Blerds Eye crew, working on a lot of stuff, getting some guests together for the show. Right at the end of the season, everything's ramping up, so I might take a short break in between the season to get that back on the ball. And yeah, we're just having a lot of fun, man. We're just enjoying what we're doing. Everybody who's come on the show have all said the same things. Like, I've never done podcasts before. You made us feel real comfortable. We have a lot of laughs. You know, we have fake sponsors, you know, that me and my partner created, you know, so we play like our fake commercial sponsors in there, and people just have a lot of fun. And, you know, it's just, like I said, it's just like a big family reunion. We just like to make the guests feel comfortable. And yeah, I have an artist coming on next week that I'll be doing, Afua Richardson, who's worked for Marvel and DC. She did the art for Lovecraft Country, and she'll be coming on for the second time, and I'll be talking. It'll be a one-on-one, so I'll be talking to her and seeing what she's up to, because she has a new book out. So yeah, that's what I am up to.
Awesome. Very awesome. Very cool. And I love it.
Thanks.
All right, you've been listening to Chris Gully here on Radio Wasteland. Check him out at blerdseyeview.org and Blerds Eye on Facebook.
Now, everyone makes mistakes, but running away is never the way to handle a problem. So when you make a mistake, admit it. That's the best way I know of to start making things right again.
You know, Terry and I were talking about our life. I'm probably going off on a tangent here, but that happens, whatever.
Do your tangent. It's your show. You can cry if you want to.
And Terry was like talking about being lost and trying to figure it out. And I was basically, we came to the conclusion that while we may have different belief systems than other people in the country, and there are a lot of them, you know, there are Christian people, there are right people, there are left people, there are Muslim people, there are, you know, all sorts of different types of people. I think the general consensus is, what do we do?
Yeah.
And I think this fear of what do we do, this lack of security, you know, a lot of it has to do for us with wildfires. You know, Terry, we don't we don't want to move away from the West Coast because her parents are old, and we want to be there for them, right? But Terry finally said last night, if there's another fire, I'm out. You know, if there's another fire close to where we live, I have to leave. I can't handle it. You know, and then we're just, where are we going to move? You know, are we going to move to hurricanes? Are we going to move to tornadoes? Are we going to
right?
You know,
like, you gotta.
Are we going to move to where green meteorites landed? Are we going to move to the blue-green algae? You know, to COVID outbreaks in the South? To where are we going to go?
Right. Yeah. Climate-wise, if you don't like wildfires, then I guess move to the South. They probably won't have wildfires for several decades. They just, you know, will have hurricanes.
Yeah.
So I hope you like hurricanes.
Well, Terry said, like, what are we going to do about the wildfires here? And, you know, at the risk of being cheesy and quoting a song, I said, they're going to pave paradise, put up a parking lot. They're going to let it all burn down. Then they're going to pave over it. And then it's not going to burn. It's just going to be hot as all hell.
No, that's exactly right. My parents' house burned down, neighbor's house too. The back of the lot, you know, the area surrounding it was like a forest. And I don't know, very privileged, grew up in like this beautiful manzanita wood, which was like my childhood. And of course it's all gone now. And are they going to plant more trees? No, of course they're not going to plant more trees, because they'll burn down. They aren't going to have any trees within, you know, like 100 feet of the property.
Right.
When during the rebuild, which is, you know, almost done, because it was a couple of years ago now, and everyone else in the neighborhood is doing that too. The neighborhood used to be a forest, now it's been completely clear cut. You can see from one side to the other, it's just dirt mounds with houses on them.
Yep.
You know? And it's much less pretty, but obviously you're going to sacrifice aesthetics to not have your house burned down. Like, that's the responsible thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
Really sad we got to this point.
I understand the mitigation decision of doing that. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. Like, I don't want it to seem like I'm griping about anyone's choices here, because there was no choice, really. I'm griping about the fact that California is now so hot that you can't have trees.
Right. And when every man's an island, nobody works together, you know.
Yeah.
But I do have to say, when your neighborhood burned down, I bet you it smelled good because manzanita.
I think it smelled like smoke.
You got to look at the bright side. Manzanita and plastic. It's probably an asbestos lining.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, the rubble smelled really bad because of all the burnt synthetic materials and stuff. Like,
well, that's another part of this that these kids, So here I am in Ashland. There's a lot of smoke going on, a lot of fires, Reading too, where we're from. And here are these young people going out. I'm young. I'm going to live forever. Just like everybody thinks. You probably think it. And they go out and they go into the smoke, and they're probably going to have repercussions from inhaling all of this crap. Inhaling the trees, maybe some repercussions, but all the industrial fires and everything, there's going to be some major repercussions.
See, okay, this is a tangent, but this is why I always found it funny that people in Reading wouldn't mask up for COVID. It's like we already had masks.
Right, yeah.
Because we had the car fire. Everyone had an N95 already.
Yeah, but, they're going to, yeah.
And people had no problem wearing it for smoke, but,
But they could see it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they could smell it, and it's legitimately more pleasant wearing a mask when... So, like I get it, but still, it's like, it was so easy. We already had them. We already had good masks. We all bought high quality, like, comfortable masks for the smoke during that summer.
And wore them without being told to.
Yeah, we did. Because
nobody said you had to. People did it anyway.
Is it just, do you want to breathe smoke?
Yeah.
But
what they should have told people at the beginning, if we have to lie to people in order to get them, next time there's an illness, just say, wear the mask. It'll keep you safe. Everybody else will get sick and you don't have to care about them. Wear the mask. It'll keep just you safe. Everybody will wear it.
Oh, no.
It was the messaging of telling people that it's not going to keep you safe. It's going to help other people that made people go like, well, I don't need no mask because I don't care.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, but also, like, when you do messaging that is purposefully deceptive, all that means is that people aren't going to trust you, right?
Yeah, but we're already doing that on everything anyway. So it's like,
well, that is true, but I don't want the CDC to start.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that the true sign of the collapse of civilization is when you can't trust the CDC, because I'm that guy. I've said it a bunch of times. Basically, if I'm in ET and a bunch of guys show up on my porch with hazmat suits, I'm going to take the little bastard, get him out of here. We're done. We're done. Where's the bleach shower? Lead me to the bleach shower. It's like you could show up in a hazmat suit at my house, not show any credentials, and I will get into the unmarked van with you just because of the fear of the hazmat suit.
You are the perfect mark.
I am the mark. Because it's terrifying. I'm not even that bad of a hypochondriac, maybe a little bit, but not that bad. But still, ET out. You're out.
Yeah. Get that little freak out of my house.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
Plus, on a side note, when we were kids, I had an ET stuffed animal, and it was real cute. It was big, like this big, and it had big plastic eyes. And we'd have stuffed animal wars. And this ET, you could hold it, and you could swing it like a hammer. So you got its body, and then the head coming off the top with these plastic eyes, and you could just. And we finally had to make the rule like you weren't allowed to use ET in the stuffed animal wars because too many people got bashed upside the head with his plastic eyes. Yeah.
Powerful.